Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Saturday, you all. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Success Code Fireside Chat, where conscious leadership meets business and real talk. And wow, this week's topic, y'all, is going to be fire so that we can have some fireside over here. I'm super excited to be here with you. My name is Lorna Sherland, and I'm your host today on this beautiful Saturday. You know, I usually start the show by sharing with you a little bit about my week. This week, I've been head down deep into creating an amazing event that's coming up on October 29th and 30th, a virtual Business Breakthrough Accelerator event is coming to you. It's a 2-day event, and I want you to be there. So, whether you're watching this on live or the replay, do put it in your calendar. It's October 29th and 30th, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to really focus on filling the gaps, removing the blocks and filling the gaps for entrepreneurs, coaches, speakers, and service providers. Here's the deal. Here's what I know. We get pieces of the information, we don't get all of the information, right? And so, what I want to do with this event is fill the gaps for you so that when you leave that event, you're going to end 2025 on a high and move into 2026 with momentum. Are you with me? I hope you are. So today's topic is it's a sensitive topic. I'm gonna start by saying that it's not heavy, but it's sensitive because it's one of the things most of us who come out and go into the entrepreneurial world, we came out of corporate America, right? And so not everybody, just left high school, left college and said, yes, I want to be an entrepreneur. It took a transitionary period. I know for me, I came to this country and I went into corporate America. I went into corporate America as a biller in an advertising agency. That's the bottom of the bottom of the bottom. And you can't start any lower than that as a biller in advertising, right? And when I left corporate America and went into real estate, I left corporate America as a controller. And we're going to talk about the things that I believe is still happening because I still hear it when I go into these networking events. I still hear people who are talking about corporate. It's never changed. And so we're going to discuss today the glass ceiling. And I'm going to talk about the glass cliff. I know you probably never heard that term before, but it's going to make sense by the time we're done. So thank you for those who are here live. Put your questions in the comment, and let's have a conversation because nobody's talking about it, and I think that if we talk about it, it's gonna really actually open up a lot of people who are actually now from corporate into entrepreneurship. It's going to unlock something for you because subconsciously there's some things that are running under the quiet that you've experienced in corporate, and now you're scared because it happened and you don't want to make some moves that could really unlock your business. I'm here to share those things with you so that you can unlock yourself. Are you with me? All right. So I'm going to be looking down at my notes so I don't miss anything because I really put some time into this for this conversation with you guys today. So here's the thing. I remember when I was in corporate America, you if you were in like the upper echelon of the leadership, you thought you had arrived, right? I know I did. Like by the time again, I started as a biller. By the time I left, I was a controller, right? So you would think that there's a level of authority and visibility and credibility that goes with that, right? And here's what I want to tell you, especially African American women, there's a subtle underlying glass ceiling that's there, right? And it can look like promotion. It can look like, um, you're part of the old boys club. And at the end of the day, it's really all about what's the word am I looking for? It's all about visibility, not for you, but for other people in the company, right? I remember one time uh I was in I think it was in the advertising agency I was at in Irvington, New York. And I remember I was right hand to the CFO. And I remember how I was treated subtly as leadership. And when it came to certain decisions, I was not even allowed in the room. And back then, I didn't have the leadership that I have now. And now that I look back at it, I could see where it was a pseudo leadership. You know what I mean? Pseudo leadership. What do I mean by pseudo leadership? I mean, it people talk to you in a way that they want you to feel that you're part of the leadership, but when it comes to certain decisions, they leave you out of it. And so when those types of behaviors happen to women, I'm only speaking from a woman's perspective. So if you're a man and you're listening to this, please, please, please bring in your perspective in this, because as I was coming up through those ranks in corporate, we didn't have women in leadership. All the men, especially in advertising, they were all men in the leadership roles, right? So that's another piece of it that I want to bring in. This is the glass ceiling that I'm talking about, because back then, and this was 20 years ago. Again, if you are in corporate America and you're listening to this, please do share what's going on. Please do share your experience, because it helps all of us, right? And so, as I was saying, back then it was all men in leadership. And again, when I was in that particular company, I was brought in, but not brought in. There was a ceiling to what I even got to know about the company. There's a ceiling about what I even got to experience as a leader in finance, where the money was going, until, until, until there was a problem. When there was a problem, then they brought me in to fix the problem, right? So you didn't know. So I'm talking about the glass ceiling right now, and this is just one example of it, of how it showed up for me in corporate. And why am I sharing this with you? This glass ceiling is still operated in your subconscious mind. In your business as an entrepreneur, and again, this is an awakening for you if you're still in corporate and you're thinking about moving into entrepreneurship. We got to remove that block for you, because it's going to actually show up later on. You're going to join the world of entrepreneurship, and it's going to show up later on in your business. Right? So we want to make sure that you can see it. Once you see it, you recognize it, you can shift it. Right? So, in corporate, you're that glass ceiling is there until they need you for something else. And when they do get ready to bring you in, a lot of times when it's too late, but people like me, we work miracles and we make it work, right? Because that's what we do, especially as women, we make it happen especially when they bring us in for problem solving. We make it happen, because we're not going to sit there and not have it happen, because or our livelihood depends on it, right? So let me step back a little bit and just define the ceiling. So the ceiling is a block, right? The ceiling is a block, and then the cliff is the visibility without the support, right? Because remember what I said, they brought me in to solve the problem. But the problem didn't have to be if they had brought me in before the problem, right? Because I could have seen the problem and like put in measures to, you know, have the problem not happen. Right? So I want to be clear. The ceiling is the block. It's that level that you're capped at. And then the cliff is, now they're going to put you in a position and then tell you this is how far you can go. And once you're done with solving the problem, then guess what happens? Guess what happens? They put you back under the ceiling. It cracks me up. It cracks me up. So I want to talk about the emotional blocks that are created in in your mind when these things happen, because first of all, if you can't recognize it, you don't see it coming, you don't know how to handle it. And when you don't know how to handle it, you just keep going with the flow, right? One of the reasons I left corporate America was this exact thing, but it was so escalated. Again, I didn't have the leadership that I have now. Now that I look back, I can come in here, which is why I wanted to bring this to you. I can come in here and share with you my experience so that you can see it for yourself, and like, make a decision as to how do I move forward from here. So when I left corporate America, when I left corporate America, it was because this had gotten so bad. I'm going to share that story with you as well. My stories are really short, by the way, because I cleared so many of them. Um, so when I came to the last company, my CFO had worked with me at another company. So this is just what we do. We solve problems. We clean up messes. It was just him and I were a tag team. And he was one person, the one person, which is why I can come in here and speak to you about this. He was the one person who never treated me the way I'm talking about with the glass ceiling. He was the CFO. I was his right hand. He treated me the right way. He brought me into the conversation. We solved the problems together. We worked on the problems together. We had late nights together. In back then in advertising, I don't know if it's still happening now, we used to work some ungodly hours, right? We used to be in the office at 7 o'clock in the morning, and 10 o'clock is when the car came to pick us up, because that was the last time of the night that the car would come and pick us up to take us home, right? Because there were no trains running at 10 o'clock at night. So he and I, we always were a tag team. So when he went into this last company, um, he realized that the problem was so big because this company didn't only have one division, they had three divisions, right? There was one in Connecticut, one in Bethesda, Maryland, and one in New York City. So when they hired him to come in and he realized the gravity of the problem, he was like, Lorna, I can't do this on my own. You gotta come. So he came for me and took me out of the last company that I was at and brought me in to support him to fix the problem. Well, guess what the company did? When we fixed the problem, they fired him. They fired him because his salary was higher than mine. They fired him. And guess what they did? They never hired anybody else. So guess what was expected of me, right? This is an example of the glass cliff. They didn't hire anybody else, and they expected me to do his job. Remember, he was the chief financial officer. I was the controller under him. And they didn't rehire somebody else for his position. And so the company, we knew the numbers. We knew the numbers. And in advertising, if you don't know, one of the money leaks that happen in an advertising agency is the production department. Another money leak in an advertising agency is the media department. Those two departments, if you don't have them under control, they'll leak money like crazy. And in this company, when he left, again, you have seniors who think that because he was managing those managers, right? He was managing the manager of the production department. He was managing the manager of the media department. So when he left, the authority left, right? Because I was a controller. Added on to it, I was a black woman. They're not going to listen to me, right? So I'm there. So you can see how a lot of emotional things are going on in the quiet, right? And so he left and they didn't hire anybody else. And I was expected to keep going with no authority, right? So there goes the ceiling again. So in that space, I was experiencing both the ceiling and the cliff because they didn't hire anybody else. I was expected to take on his role. And the ceiling was I didn't have the authority with the other departments, right? So what happened, what ensued was absolute chaos, absolute chaos. And at one point, I said to the managers of the departments, "You guys, I'm gonna tell you this right now. If you don't stop what you're doing, this company is gonna be out of business in the next year. Period. Because y'all are just gonna run out of money." They were spending money so fast and furious because they were working on getting new clients, but they weren't doing their front end work in a way that was sustainable, right? And there was an incident. I know the story. I thought it was gonna be shorter, but bear with me. Um, there was an incident, and I took the position that I was not going to stay in the company, and I literally left the company um, on a really whim. On a whim. That's the power. So here's the part that the reason I'm sharing this part with you. That's the power that you have when you have autonomy. You have the power to make the decisions that will support your well-being. That's point. I had the power to support my decision in leaving that company without another job. A lot of people out there are working in companies that they hate, that they're not respected, that they're not valued, and they're still sitting there in that position without taking the authority and the autonomy to leave and go do your own thing or find a job that brings you joy. I'm here to give you permission to do that. I want you to hear me right now. I'm giving you permission. Permission granted because you deserve that. The days of you working because you just have to, they get to stop so that you can flow, right? So I left that company. I called my ex-husband and I said to him, I have some news. I just left. And, this is when you know that you did the right thing. So I left 9/11. I left 5 days before 9/11. So I left on 9/6. And that was September. And by November, had my real estate license and I had started my real estate business. The first year in my business, typically realtors usually do like maybe 4 deals a year. My first year in the real estate business, I did 25 deals. 25. So I knew it was the right decision. So here am I telling you and giving you permission granted to change your position. Change your position. There is no ceiling. There is no cliff unless you're living somebody else's vision. So I'm gonna say that one more again. There is no ceiling, there is no cliff unless you're living somebody else's vision. So permission granted. So I want to talk a little bit about the psychology of it before we end, because the psychology of it is very subtle, and if you're not paying attention, you can't see it. Um, we're conditioned, especially as women, we're conditioned for the double standard. So when we see the double standard, we tend to stay in it because it's supposed to be like that, right? That's how it is. If you hear yourself saying that's how it is, that's a double standard that you're agreeing with, right? And I want to ask you, is it really right? Is it the right thing to do? Is it powerful for you to be in that double standard? And if it's not, make a decision. Make a decision. Here's the thing, what I want to leave with from this conversation. One of the most powerful things that you have as a human being is the power of choice. It's the power of choice. Deuteronomy 28, I believe it is. It says, I give you life and I give you death. You choose. The power of choice is the most powerful thing that you have as a human being. So again, I'm giving you permission. Choose you over anything else, right? So the double standard is one thing. And the other piece of it is, a lot of times you'll have people wanting you to feel guilty about your choice. Don't feel guilty about your choice. You're empowered by your choice. And when you make the choice for you, even if it doesn't work, know that it's working for you anyway. You just can't see it, but it's working for you anyway, right? And then the last piece is um, a lot of times, especially in corporate America, I see even now, I see it with the young kids. Oh my God, it's so bad. They chase approval versus really chasing alignment to what their superpowers are and what their gifts are, and chasing alignment to who they are. It's really, really it's a disease. That's the best way I can put it. It's a disease right now that we get to actually cut off. We get to cut it off, because imagine a world where your sense of self, where your sense of essence is dependent on somebody else's approval. That's why we have so many problems in relationships. No, I had that problem for a long time. I did not see it. So again, y'all, I'm here to wake you up to yourself. If you look at all this from the perspective I'm giving you right now, it will change your life, I promise you. Stop chasing approval and chase alignment with who you are. When you do that, things open up so much easier. It flows so much better, you know? And so if you want to shift from these ways of being, from the double standards, from feeling guilty, from chasing approval, you've got to really figure out how to position yourself in a way that is powerful, that doesn't have anybody else's uh, ideas about how it should be. It's your idea. That's where your power is, right? So you can see how when you transition out of what corporate America has trained you for, and you can see if you're not really paying attention, you can bring the same behaviors into entrepreneurship. And when you bring those behaviors into entrepreneurship, it shows up like people pleasing, over giving, right? Because you're going to overgive to your clients, you're going to people please to your peers and your clients, right? And that's going to lead to burnout. So you know how burnout is this thing in entrepreneurship. People are always talking about burnout. One of my clients, I believe it was a year ago, she actually came to me because she was burnt out. She was a dentist and burnt out to the point where her body was actually giving her the signals of burnout. And she didn't even recognize that she was burnt out both physically and emotionally. And one of the things that happened with her was that she was people pleasing. Every time somebody didn't show up for work, she stepped in. Every time the client was late for an appointment, she would make it work, right? Until she couldn't anymore. But she didn't recognize what it was, right? So again, these are so subtle. They can look like normal, but they're not. It's not normal. It's not normal. So I hope you're making notes and taking really looking at how your life is showing up, whether you're again in corporate America right now and you're experiencing the glass ceiling or the glass cliff. So let me tell you one more time, the glass ceiling is a block. It's that cap of where you can go. The glass cliff is, yeah, they'll take you above the ceiling and give you the responsibility, but not the authority, right? And by the way, when they put you in the glass cliff, remember what's a cliff? A cliff is like a precipice, right? Like the only way if you go too far and you go off course, the only other way you're going is down, right? So you just got to be mindful of that. What else did I want to share with you today? So we talk about being shifting to having the authority. You got to have authority, and you get to have your own self leadership. I love self leadership. I work on myself every day, right? But this is where you get to really think about where, how, and why you show up the way you show up. A lot of times, people in corporate think that they have to show up a certain way to please the boss. And that's part of the people pleasing that I'm talking about before. You show up that way to please the boss. Again, when you move into entrepreneurship, you've got to be powerful because you are the leader now of yourself, but not only that, you're leader of your client. You're leading your client in from where they are to where they want to be. So you see where you've got to stand in your authority. It's not an option, right? And by the way, one of the things I share with my clients is that how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? There's no separation. I remember when I was coming into entrepreneurship, um, people always said to me, "Well, you got to separate your business from your personal life." That I'm telling you, it was ingrained in me when I started real estate. Ingrained. Separate your business from your personal life. And what I've found for myself, and you can share with me if you've seen or seen this in others or in your own life, what I found is you cannot separate it. You cannot separate it. And I believe that's one of the reasons that I am divorced because I separated my business from my personal life to the point where the conversations just didn't happen the same way. Right. So I'm going to invite you into how you do one thing is how you do everything. So look at your life and see where in your life are you in a certain way, and then changing how you are being in a different situation because it at some point it's gonna break. It's gonna break. It's guaranteed to break because at the end of the day you're being inauthentic. You're being inauthentic at some level to either scenarios, right? And so, being authentic and being who you are, and then setting the standards. I don't like boundaries, but set some parameters for your personal life. But don't be a whole different person, right? It just doesn't work. And you may think you're doing something different on either side, but you're really not. It just looks different. Um, so self-leadership is super important. The other thing is just be careful. Just be careful. Sometimes these bosses, they're they're really slick. They're really slick. They can make the promotions. They can make the accolades feel so good, right? They can make them feel so good. And you think that these are um, promotions. You think that these are promotions, but they're not. They're not. These are actually traps. And so really think about um, when you really think about how you want to show up for yourself, right? You're going to realize that you get to really, really be you in all areas of your life. You got to step out of that trap. You got to step out of that trap. Or your alternative is now that I'm giving you an awareness of how this works, you can choose to make it a runway for yourself, right? A runway for yourself, leaving corporate America, going into entrepreneurship with this awareness of yourself and knowing now what you want in your vision, and you can change. You can change it for your good. You can change it so that you come into entrepreneurship powerfully. You can change it so that when you are in entrepreneurship, you recognize the signs because they just don't go away immediately. You still get to work on it. You still get to work on them because as you're working on them, your clients are coming in. They're coming in with their own thing too, right? So this is why you get to be so powerful in your own stance that you can support them to shift out of. Because I can tell you, your clients are going to be the earlier version of you. Because that's why you had to go through that. so that you can support them moving through their season. Okay. So this is like uh I'm so uh I'm so focused on supporting entrepreneurs to shift into their own authenticity, because I believe that for me it took a while to figure out a lot of this stuff. It took a lot of training, it took a lot of mentorship, it took a lot of leadership. And I know that most people are not in this space where they can even recognize that self leadership is a thing that's missing from their business. And so I'm so passionate. I don't want to use the word passionate because it's not passion, because passion fades, right? Write that one down. Passion fades. If you're passionate, it's passion is an emotion and it can fade. But when you have a mission, it's a whole different conversation, because no matter what happens, no matter how you feel, you're going to show up for the mission. It's like a soldier, right? You don't see, like, when you see the guys in the army, you don't see them abandoning the mission, right? You see them going through, even if they're sick, even if they're in a war and they get injured, you see them still trying to still fight. That's when you know it's a thing that you're put on this planet for. That's when you know. So I want you to get there, because when you get there, that's the place of fulfillment. That's the place of fulfillment. And my wish for you, as you're hearing my voice, is that you live a fulfilled life on your terms. Oh my God. You get to live a fulfilled life on your terms. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have challenges, but it does mean that you are going to be living in your own authenticity, and nobody can take that away from you. Something nobody can take away from you. That's something nobody can tell you, oh, there's a cap on it. That's something nobody can say, oh, you can just do this for now, and then I'll compensate you later, and then not compensate you. No, right? Because you're going to be in your power. What would that feel like for you to be in your power at all times in your life? So I want you to take this on, and what do I want to leave you with? Here we go. We talked about the runway. We talked about the trap. What else? Give me 1 second. I want to make sure I give you everything. Yeah, I just want to make one more point. Whether it's you're in the entrepreneurship space, and typically I don't speak to corporate, but I'm choosing to speak to corporate because I know that most of the people who come into entrepreneurship, and even people who have been entrepreneurs for a long time, a lot of what I'm talking about is still operating under the quiet. It's one of the reason I'm sharing this with you is because it's one of the blocks that keep coming up, but people don't know how to handle it because they can't see it. And when I talk to my clients, I'm able to see it because I've gone through it. Number one, I'm speaking from experience. And because I've transformed it, I can support them in shifting, right? So um, uh, when you are in corporate America and you're thinking of moving into entrepreneurship, just think about, how do you want to be? When it, how how all right, here we go. So when you're leaving corporate America, how do you want to experience yourself as a powerful entrepreneur, right? How do you want to experience yourself as a powerful entrepreneur? Because when you are clear on that, everything else is going to fall into place. You're going to be able to recognize the right steps to take at any period of time in your business. You're going to recognize the right people to be involved on your team or partnerships. You're gonna recognize when a thing is a season versus when this is going to be for a little while. It just changes your perception of how things flow, and it's super important. So that's what I want to leave you with. When you're coming in, just think about those things. And it's one of the reasons why I created the Accelerate Her event at the end of this month on October 29th and 30th. I'll end with this because I think it's so important. One of the reasons I created that event was because I've been creating events for 4 years. I've been coaching clients in the entrepreneurial world for 4 years. I'm still selling real estate, right? And what I've seen and how I've been mentored and coached by my own coaches, what I've noticed is that things are kind of discombobulated. There's no structure, there's no order. And I think this is one of the things that are keeping entrepreneurs back from serving more people. So the reason the Accelerate Her 2-day event was created was to solve that problem. So if you're an entrepreneur, you're listening to this message today, if it resonated with you and you want to hear more, and you know that there are gaps in your business as an entrepreneur, a coach, a speaker, a service provider, you get to be at that event because I'm curating a specific set of experts to come in and support all of us. They're going to come in and they're going to put everything in order. Now, if you have pieces that you've already had in place, but there's something missing that's going to take it to the next level, I promise you it will be in that event. So, at the bottom of this recording, you're probably going to see the link. Just click on the link, show up. Don't just show up. It's going to be $1 to enter the event, just $1, y'all. Imagine your life after spending $1 to get clarity and gain momentum. What would your life look like? I want you to focus on that. Don't focus on the dollar. Focus on what that dollar is going to give you. It's going to give you clarity. It's going to give you breakthrough. I promise you, you're going to get a breakthrough in that event because I'm hosting it and I'm the breakthrough queen. So you're going to get a breakthrough. And I hope you got a breakthrough here from this conversation today. Thank you for being with me. I love doing my solo shows because I get to like go deep in and kind of give you like real time things that you can go. Encourage you to listen to this again and kind of journal on it, whether you're again leaving corporate, coming into entrepreneurship, or you're in entrepreneurship already and you want to go to the next level. Just track what has happened in from your transition up until now, and then look at where you want to be after today. Where do you want to be after today? If you want to be uh, in a different business, if you want to be more fulfilling, if you want more clients, where do you want to be? Because I promise you, you're going to see where you've been operating the same way. And now you get to shift because I gave you this information. So, as always, I always leave the show telling you to like, subscribe, and share this episode with somebody that you know who could benefit from it. And also go out there and be you. Be the authentic you that you were created to be. Nobody else can be you. You are the source. You are the flow. So go out there and flow, and I'll see you next week. All right. Have a great weekend. Bye bye.